Hey there, and welcome to your personalized deep dive. Today we're tackling something crucial in STEM fields.
Yeah,
Vocabulary.
right.
You sent over a podcast script about essential scientific English, and we're going to unpack it together.
Yeah,
It might seem basic,
right.
but trust me, clear communication in science is a game changer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I've seen firsthand how a simple misunderstanding of a term can derail an entire research project.
Okay, so let's jump right into the script.
Yeah.
It starts by emphasizing why STEM vocabulary is so important.
Yeah.
They use this interesting analogy comparing science to communication itself.
Right.
Basically, even the most groundbreaking discovery is useless if you can't explain it clearly.
Yeah, it makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We often get caught up in the data and the experiments, but without the ability to articulate our findings, the impact is lost.
Exactly. And the script points out that STEM vocabulary provides this kind of universal language for scientists and engineers.
Yeah.
It helps to avoid ambiguity and ensures everyone is on the same page.
Right.
It's like having a shared toolkit for complex ideas.
It's like if I told you I had a theory about something.
Yeah.
In casual conversation, that might mean a hunch.
Right.
But in science, a theory is backed by tons of evidence and testing.
Whoa, that's a good point.
Yeah,
So words can have different weights depending on the context.
exactly.
That makes precise language even more important.
Right.
Now let's get into some of the must-know STEM words this script highlights.
Okay.
They start with hypothesis. But emphasize, it's not just an educated guess.
Right. It has to be testable.
Okay.
It's a prediction you can actually design and experiment around.
Hmm.
Remember those science fair projects?
Oh, yeah.
You were essentially forming hypotheses back then.
Oh, I definitely remember those.
Yeah.
I tried to prove that rock music made plants grow faster.
Interesting.
My hypothesis was not supported, by the way.
Okay.
Okay, so the script gives a different example.
Yeah.
Predicting plant growth based on watering frequency.
Right.
Much more scientific.
And that gets to the core of the scientific method.
Yeah.
A testable hypothesis drives the research process.
Yeah.
You're not just observing.
Yeah.
You're making a specific prediction and then testing it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is algorithm.
Okay.
Now, I'll admit this one always sounds a bit intimidating to me.
Yeah.
The script tries to demystify it by comparing an algorithm to a recipe,
Okay.
a set of steps to achieve a desired outcome.
Okay.
But let's go beyond baking cookies. Think about how Netflix recommends movies based on what you've watched before.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So it's analyzing my data,
Right.
my viewing history,
Right.
and then using an algorithm to suggest something I might like.
Exactly.
Oh.
Algorithms are all around us in technology. They can be simple or incredibly complex.
Right.
But they all follow this idea of defined steps leading to a specific result.
That's actually way cooler than I thought.
And understanding how algorithms work can help us understand how technology is shaping our lives.
Absolutely. And speaking of data, the script also distinguishes between anecdotal evidence and the empirical data that science relies on.
Right, like my mom swearing by her home remedies versus a controlled study with measurable results.
Exactly. It's the difference between personal experience and scientific rigor.
They make this point with a funny line.
Yeah.
Our data shows that 90% of people prefer pizza over kale.
See, even data can be fun.
Right.
But seriously, understanding this distinction is crucial, especially in a world flooded with misinformation.
Okay, so far we've covered hypothesis, algorithm, and data.
Right.
All essential terms.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, have you ever had any STEM vocabulary fails?
Oh, yeah.
Moments where you completely misused a term?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Once in a presentation, I tried to sound super smart and used velocity when I really just meant speed.
Right.
My preface called me out on it right there.
Ouch, but also relatable. It reminds us that even experts make mistakes. Speaking of which, the script shares some relatable STEM vocabulary fails, too.
What's fascinating here is how these anecdotes make complex topics more human.
Right.
It's like we're all in this together, learning and sometimes stumbling along the way.
So true. Now, I don't want to get bogged down in funny stories.
Okay.
Let's move on to some actionable tips from the script for mastering STEM vocabulary.
Sure.
Because honestly, just memorizing definitions sounds pretty dull.
I agree. Luckily, the script emphasizes that learning this vocabulary can actually be engaging.
Okay.
You know, they recommend using flashcards, and there are some great apps out there like Quizlet
Right.
that can make it feel less like a chore.
Ooh, good idea. So if I encounter a word like biotechnology while reading an article, I could create a flashcard for it.
Yeah.
And what other tips do they have?
Well, they suggest reading science news from websites like Science Daily or Nature. You'll see how STEM terms are used in actual research, and you might even discover some cool new discoveries along the way. That's a great way to learn seeing the words in action. They also suggest watching educational YouTube channels like Vsauce or SciShow.
Hmm.
They break down complex ideas in a really visual and entertaining way.
I love those channels. It's amazing how they make science feel accessible and even exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got flashcards, science news, and YouTube. What else?
They also recommend something a bit more old school practice with friends.
Okay.
Try to explain a STEM concept you're learning to someone outside of the field. If they get it, you've really grasped it.
That's a great challenge. And if I get stuck trying to explain mitochondria, the scripts suggest using mnemonics like mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell.
Right.
It's cheesy, but it works.
Mnemonics can be surprisingly helpful.
Yeah.
They tap into that part of our brain that loves stories and vivid imagery.
Right.
It's like hacking your memory.
I'm all about memory hacks.
Uh-huh.
Okay. There's one question I bet a lot of listeners have, and the script actually addresses it in their Q&A section.
Okay.
How do I remember all these complicated words?
It's a common struggle. The script suggests breaking down words into smaller parts, kind of like we did with biotechnology earlier. For example, photosynthesis becomes photo, meaning light, and synthesis, meaning to combine.
Right.
Suddenly, it's not so intimidating.
That's a really useful tip.
Yeah.
It makes those long words feel way more manageable.
And it connects back to that idea of STEM vocabulary being like a toolkit.
Right.
You learn the individual parts, and then you can build more complex understanding.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's about empowering yourself to decode the language of science rather than feeling overwhelmed by it.
Okay, there's another point in the script that I wanted to touch on.
Okay.
They talk about the importance of not just knowing definitions, but understanding how words are used in different contexts.
That's where reading those science articles comes in handy.
Yeah.
You see how the words function in real-world research and discussions? It's like learning the grammar of science.
And sometimes the same word can have totally different meanings in different scientific fields.
Right.
Like, I bet evolution means something different to a biologist than it does to a computer scientist.
You're exactly right. It's crucial to be aware of these nuances. Paying attention to context is key. And that brings us to another challenge, jargon.
Ooh, jargon. The script warns against overusing it, especially when talking to people outside of STEM.
Right. It's like speaking a secret code that only a few people understand. And that defeats the purpose of clear communication, doesn't it?
Totally. We want to share the excitement of science, not make people feel excluded.
Right.
So finding that balance between precise language and accessibility is key.
It's a skill that takes practice. And speaking of practice, the script also suggests building a personal glossary.
Oh, like a little science dictionary of my own.
Exactly.
That sounds helpful.
You can jot down new words, you encounter their definitions, and even examples of how they're used.
It's a great way to actively engage with the vocabulary and make it stick.
I'm definitely going to start doing that. What other resources do they recommend?
They're big fans of online resources. You've got online dictionaries and encyclopedias specifically for STEM fields, which can be lifesavers when you need a quick definition or etymology.
And there are those online forums and communities where STEM folks gather to discuss and debate ideas.
Yeah.
I bet you can learn a lot from those conversations.
Absolutely. It's like having access to a global network of experts and enthusiasts. And it highlights another important point the script makes: staying current with STEM vocabulary.
Because science is constantly evolving, right?
Exactly.
New terms and concepts are emerging all the time.
So staying up to date requires a bit of effort. Reading scientific journals, attending conferences, even following thought leaders on social media. All of these can help you keep your finger on the pulse of scientific language.
It's like subscribing to the Science News Channel. Okay, so we've covered a lot of tips and resources.
Yeah.
But what if someone's feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of vocabulary out there?
That's understandable. The script acknowledges that feeling and offers some reassuring advice.
Okay.
Take it one step at a time.
Don't try to learn everything at once. Focus on a few key terms, master those, and then move on to the next set. It's like building a house brick by brick.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help along the way. Find mentors, join study groups, and embrace the collaborative nature of science.
Great advice. Now let's go back to something we mentioned earlier, the STEM vocabulary fails.
Yeah.
The script doesn't just share them for laughs, but also to highlight an important point.
You're right. Those anecdotes emphasize that even seasoned scientists make mistakes with terminology. It's a reminder that language learning is an ongoing process for everyone.
It makes those of us just starting out feel a lot less intimidated, knowing that even the experts stumble sometimes. It's okay to mess up as long as we learn from it.
Absolutely. It reinforces that growth mindset we were talking about. Science is all about curiosity, exploration, and sometimes making glorious mistakes along the way.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I wanted to revisit the script's emphasis on visuals.
Okay.
They talk about how diagrams, illustrations, and animations can make a huge difference in understanding STEM concepts.
Visuals are incredibly powerful.
Right.
They can make abstract ideas more concrete and relatable, especially for those who learn best visually.
Imagine trying to understand DNA without seeing a diagram of the double helix.
Right.
It would be like trying to describe a symphony without hearing the music.
Exactly. And thankfully, there are tons of great visual resources out there. Websites like Khan Academy, YouTube channels like Crash Course, they're all about making science visually engaging.
I find that videos, especially animated ones, can really help solidify concepts in my mind. It's like those mnemonics, but for your eyes.
I love that analogy. It's about finding those tools and techniques that work best for your learning style. And remember, the goal isn't just to memorize words, but to understand the concepts behind them.
That's such a crucial point. Okay, as we move into the final stretch of this deep dive, there's one question the script poses that I think is really thought-provoking.
Okay.
How do you decide which STEM terms are truly essential?
It's a good question. The script suggests focusing on the words you encounter most frequently in your specific field of study or area of interest. What are the terms that keep popping up in your textbooks, research articles, and conversations with colleagues?
Okay.
Those are likely the ones that are most foundational.
So it's about prioritizing relevance and maybe even creating a hierarchy of terms, the must-knows, the good-to-knows, and the ones you can look up if needed.
Exactly. It's about making strategic choices about where to focus your energy. Again, don't be afraid to ask for guidance from mentors or more experienced peers in your field.
They can be invaluable resources for navigating the complexities of STEM vocabulary. And speaking of complexities, what about all those technical abbreviations and acronyms?
Oh, I feel your pain. The script suggests creating a personal cheat sheet of commonly used abbreviations and their full forms.
Okay.
It can be a lifesaver when you're reading a dense scientific article or attending a conference where everyone's throwing around acronyms like confetti.
That's a great tip. And it's a good reminder to pay attention to the conventions for using abbreviations in different fields.
Yeah.
Like in biology, DNA always means deoxyribonucleic acid. But in a different context, it might stand for something completely different.
Context is everything. And while we're on the topic of tricky aspects of STEM vocabulary, let's not forget about pronunciation.
Oh, yeah. Mispronouncing a word can be a little embarrassing, especially in a professional setting. The script recommends using online pronunciation guides or dictionaries to practice those tongue twisters.
There are some fantastic resources out there like Forvo or Merriam-Webster's online dictionary.
Nice.
They even have audio pronunciation so you can hear the words spoken correctly.
That's so helpful. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here.
Uh-huh.
But before we wrap up, I wanted to touch on one last point from the script.
Yeah.
Making STEM vocabulary learning fun.
Yes. Learning shouldn't feel like a chore. The script suggests incorporating gamification techniques like using apps like Quizlet or Memrise.
Right.
They turn vocabulary practice into interactive quizzes and games.
Ooh, I love those apps. It's amazing how a little friendly competition can make learning so much more engaging.
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of offline fun, too. Explore STEM-themed board games, puzzles, or trivia challenges.
Right.
They can be a great way to reinforce your understanding of scientific concepts and vocabulary in a relaxed and enjoyable setting.
I love that idea. It's about finding those moments of joy and discovery in the learning process. Okay, as we head into the final part of our deep dive, there's one last resource the script mentions that I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, mentorship.
Mentorship is incredibly valuable, especially when it comes to navigating the nuances of STEM vocabulary.
Finding someone who's more experienced in your field, whether it's a professor, a senior colleague, or even a fellow student who's further along in their studies, they can provide guidance, clarification, and support as you build your scientific lexicon.
It's like having a personal guide through the jungle of scientific language. Okay, we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive, from the importance of clear communication to actionable tips for learning vocabulary, and even some fun ways to make the process more engaging.
I think the key takeaway here is that mastering STEM vocabulary isn't just about memorizing definitions. It's about empowering yourself to understand and communicate the wonders of science effectively.
And it's an ongoing journey, one that's filled with challenges, discoveries, and hopefully a lot of aha moments along the way. Feels like we've barely scratched the surface, but that's the beauty of language learning, isn't it? There's always more to explore.
Exactly, and that's what makes the journey so exciting. The script emphasizes that mastering STEM vocabulary isn't just about advancing your career or impressing your professors.
It's about unlocking a deeper understanding of the world around us.
Right.
It's about being able to appreciate the intricacies of scientific discoveries and engage in meaningful conversations about the wonders of the universe.
Think about it this way. Every scientific term, every complex equation is essentially a story waiting to be told. And once you have the vocabulary, you can start to understand those stories and share them with others.
That's such a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
It's like learning a secret language that unlocks a whole new realm of knowledge.
Right.
And the more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to discover.
It's like that feeling you get when you finally grasp a complex concept. It's a sense of accomplishment, but also a spark of curiosity to learn even more.
It's like a puzzle. Each new word you learn fits into a bigger picture, helping you see the world in a whole new light.
And that sense of wonder, that thirst for knowledge is what drives scientific progress. It's what inspires us to ask questions, to challenge assumptions, and to push the boundaries of human understanding.
And clear communication is essential for sharing those discoveries and inspiring others to join the journey. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a challenge.
Yeah.
What STEM concepts will you try explaining to a friend today? Maybe you'll even spark their curiosity and inspire them to join you on this incredible adventure of scientific exploration.
And remember, we're always here to help guide you through the ever-evolving world of STEM vocabulary.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those questions coming.
Until next time, happy learning.